Hello. I think I have one person here, so hello. Welcome to this other live stream. I'm going to make sure that my Instagram knows that we are going live. Real quick, maybe. Happy Friday, woohoo. Okay, I got it posted up on my Instagram story that we're live, so let's go ahead and get started, I guess. We're just here chilling again, working on the, where is it? Sea Star quilt that I started working on last time. So kind of here's this quilt kit I got for my birthday last year. It's like the ocean and awesome, super cool sea stars on it. Very excited to work on this. I started cutting out all the fabric the last live stream I did, and now we're going to carry on with that and eventually, hopefully, maybe get to putting together some pieces for it. And then I'm just here to, like, if you have any questions or anything you want to know about me or kind of some science stuff, just put it in the chat and I'm happy to do my best to answer that. I am in the front room of my house today, which features the the white tables that were my previous YouTube backdrop before I got my office space all decorated. So this is kind of like a throwback, or I don't even know, kind of a throwback to like previous YouTube channel when I just started out. Not that I've been doing this for that long. So yeah, just chatting away, I guess. And I have the ironing board behind me. The very beginning of my YouTube channel, I actually didn't have like a very good tripod for my camera that I was using, so I actually would prop up my like little baby tripod I had onto the ironing board in my room. The ironing board has been a handy tool for a lot of different things. Let me try to see if I can get you guys up a little bit higher so you can also see my cutting surface. Kind of. Yeah, so this is there we go. Got my cutting surface here, just working with the different fabric, and then there's like a whole long list of different fabric pieces that I'm supposed to be cutting out for this. So that's what I'm working on, and luckily I had check marked off the stuff I've already cut out, so I know where to start. That was nice to pass to Brianna to do that. Oh, thank you. Yes, this is my lovely Women in Science water bottle, which is kind of what inspired my creation of the Women in Science water bottle for my Women in Science quilt that I made during the month of March. I've had this for a couple of years and it's awesome. I have so many Women in Science things. Someday I actually want to make like I don't know if like a meme or some sort of like just put together an outfit of like a women scientist t-shirt with the water bottle with like I have a journal that's got women scientists on it and a tote bag with women scientists on it. Just kind of put together the whole women scientist outfit just for the heck of it, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, we're going to be testing my abilities to talk and cut at the same time. And count. If anybody is unfamiliar with quilting or anything like that, it involves a lot of like cutting things to certain sizes, and you think you can count until you have to follow instructions. All right. Did you used to do chemistry research? Yes, I did. I have a bachelor's degree in I double majored in biology and chemistry, and then I have a master's degree in analytical chemistry. So in undergrad, I did both biology and chemistry research. For my chemistry research, I worked on the effect of I worked on stuff to do with atmospheric aerosols, so like tiny pieces of particles or like dust, minerals, even chemicals that are in the air that cause a lot of atmospheric processes to happen. And I was specifically working with one type of one type of molecule that was called 1-phenylpyrrole, and I was looking at how 1-phenylpyrrole changed its structure within the atmosphere. So if you were to kind of like apply energy to it, if you were to change the structure of the molecule, how would it change the amount of light it absorbed? That was kind of more or less on what I was looking at, because 1-phenylpyrrole is a molecule in the atmosphere that actually can absorb a lot of sunlight and contributing to like warming of the atmosphere. So I was looking at how different energy states or different configurations of that molecule would change how much light it absorbed, because the structure of a molecule changes a lot of things about its property, such as like what type of light or what wavelengths of light it absorbs. So I did a lot of computational chemistry for that. And then I did computational chemistry, which involved like running a bunch of kind of simulations through the college's supercomputer system. And these calculations could kind of give out like how much energy is this structure taking to exist, or kind of like similar, like what would the absorption spectrum of this molecule be. But these are all computational simulations, so they are accurate, I guess, to the best of our ability to predict these chemical processes. And then I did something called R2PI spectroscopy, which is resonant two-photon ionization spectroscopy. And that involved hitting... It's been a while, and this was kind of above my head when I was doing it. So I have to think back. So it involved putting the molecule into a little chamber and then hitting the molecule with photons in order to make it excited. And then you kind of got this like spectrum, I believe, as the molecule kind of like released energy. So you pumped it up with energy, and then as the energy kind of settled back down out of it, you got data that could tell you about the structure of it. Hello, thank you for calling me cool. Nobody ever calls me cool. So we did that combined with computational simulations to get information about the 1-phenylpyrrole in the ground and excited state, and how that impacted the different ways that it would kind of work with different wavelengths. I actually have a paper published on that when I was an undergrad. I can't remember the name of the paper. It has a very long, complicated name. But we did publish a paper in the Journal of Physical Chemistry A. I'll have to see if I can find it and put the link someplace at some point. I don't know if anybody would be interested in any of the papers that I have published or have been co-authors on in my academic career, but I know one of them has been at least linked in one of my videos somewhere. Particular molecule for 1-phenylpyrrole. Yeah, I think it can come from emissions or other things being burned, or even I think secondary reactions of other molecules in the atmosphere. So you have in atmospheric chemistry, you have stuff that you have like primary organic aerosols and other compounds that occur directly from like a direct emission source. So like pine trees and even like lemons and stuff like that. I mean, everything that smells is releasing a compound. They're releasing volatile organic compounds or VOCs. And so like pinene is a VOC from pine trees. It's what makes pine tree smells like pine trees. And pinene released into the atmosphere is a primary organic aerosol. And so, and like if you were to burn something, you're directly releasing compounds and molecules into the air. But then they can undergo further reactions with sunlight or oxygen or even with each other, and then create secondary compounds that are even more complicated to study. It's part of the reason that atmospheric chemistry and just chemistry in general are so complicated, just because like we might start out with like pinene in the air from pine trees, and it combines with like something somebody's released from a burning fire, and those two things combine together. Or just the pinene itself can age from the oxygen in the air or be broken down by like the sunlight, and then it creates something entirely new that you have to figure out how to study. My other research I did was on, so this is when I got to graduate school. I kind of stuck in the same vein of atmospheric chemistry. Let me grab a pen real quick. I still stuck in the same vein of atmospheric chemistry, and the lab that I was in did do stuff with what is called a brown carbon, or that's like carbon molecules in the atmosphere that absorb light very strongly in the like visible to ultraviolet light range, which is why they end up being brown. And so that lab did research on brown carbon, but they were also doing research on nanoplastics in the atmosphere. And one of the new projects they had, or kind of like new projects they had when I joined the lab, was working on something called CIPP, which is cured in place pipe. And I did a video on this a while ago now, because I made talking a little bit about it. But cured in place pipe is a method that is used to repair like sewer pipes or stormwater management pipes. Instead of having to dig up the pipe, they thermoset plastic pipe. I believe so. That sounds like it should be similar. Instead of having to dig up the pipe, you are just kind of like inserting this resin-covered tube liner into the pipe, and then you're inflating it. So kind of like, imagine if you were to put like a balloon inside of a bottle and then like blow up the balloon would fill to fit the inside of that like 2-liter bottle or something like that. And then it's covered in resin, just like the stuff people use in resin crafts or to make like plastic. And then you cure that resin and it hardens into this pipe that is inside of the pre-existing pipe, seals off any cracks, crevices, damages, but you didn't have to dig the entire pipe up or like shut down the road or shut down the area. You didn't have to put all the dirt back, etc. Just to be less invasive to the environment and less disruptive to other people. The issue with it is that number one, resin is disgusting. It's real gross. And what the people in my lab were finding, the person who was working on the project before me, who started the project, was that as they blew air into the pipe and cured the resin, or they would usually blow like hot air or steam into the pipe to cure the resin. On the other end of these situations, you had like a giant steam plume coming out of the ground, but that steam plume wasn't just steam. It was like uncured pieces of resin. It was other chemicals from the resin mixing with the air, and it was also producing micro and nanoplastics getting blown directly into the air, and not just like shed pieces of micro or nanoplastics the same way that like a water bottle in the ocean breaks down into tinier and tinier plastic pieces. This wasn't like just pieces of old pipe liner getting pushed out. It was literally creating new nano and microplastics getting put straight into the atmosphere. So that's pretty bad. We don't like that. So that was what the person kind of found. The person I took over the project from and co-worked on the project with was doing the kind of beginning of that study and published the findings of the fact that like these were creating new nanoplastics in the air. And then what I did is I took a look at the specific like resins they were using in the curing process, so specific resins they would use in the CIPP installations, as well as the, oh my gosh, brain blank. So resins they would use in the installations, steam collected from like air being blown through the installations, and then the final hardened plastic pipe at the end. I also had like lab samples of those that I broke down and analyzed the components of each of those. So I had like the before, the during, and the after to see kind of like what chemicals were even in the resin, because material safety data sheets for those resins were, I mean, they existed, but they're like did not report on everything inside of them, and it was real sketchy. Sounds like those companies are pretty sketchy. And then what was coming out what was being directly inputted into the atmosphere from the installations, what kind of chemicals were in that and how they differed from the starting material, and then that finished material, how many of the compounds actually ended up like stuck in the plastic left behind that could be potentially bad. So I did this. So I studied each of those things using kind of a variety of different methods, but the plastic breakdown is, if I want to sleep at night, I don't think about micro and nanoplastics. I don't think about plastic. But so I studied them using mainly something called mass spectrometry, which I think I've also mentioned on this channel. And if you're familiar with chemistry, you may have heard mass spectrometry, or even, I don't know, maybe somebody watching is a mass spectrometrist expert. I don't pretend to be one, but I did mass spectrometry, which is a mass spectrometer in chemistry is a instrument that you can more or less put a sample in, and it will tell you like almost every single thing that is in your sample and what its mass is. This is a gross oversimplification of what a mass spectrometer is, and like interpreting your data and getting that information back out of it is more complicated. It doesn't just print out a list of here's the stuff that is everything that's in your sample, but you do get a like line at every single mass of everything that it could pick up in your sample. And then you go from there using rules of chemistry to and atomic like masses of chemical compounds to figure out, hey, this line refers to styrene, this line refers to, oh my gosh, can I remember any of the, like butylated hydroxytoluene? Oh my gosh, I don't remember a lot of the compounds that I worked with. They were gigantic names. Yeah, a lot of really nasty sounding names in them. But you could figure out what was in your sample by running it through a mass spectrometer. I also did something called liquid chromatography, which is similar to, again, I don't know the scientific background of anybody watching, so if you already know this, you can listen to my oversimplification of it. Liquid chromatography is how you can separate out different compounds, so it doesn't necessarily tell you like what each one is, but if you have a huge mixture of something that's really complicated, you can like separate out the different parts depending on its chemical property. If you've ever in science class or just for fun, like put a piece of paper, like drawn like dots of pen on a piece of paper and stuck it in water or alcohol and watch the like water alcohol travel up, and it like separates all the colors of like pen, and what you thought was like a black pen is actually not black ink. It's like mixtures of different colors together, and different pens have different mixtures of colors. That is very simplified chromatography. But instead of separating out pen ink colors, we're separating out like all the giant soup of stuff that's in your sample. And you could combine liquid chromatography with mass spectrometry and get even more detailed results. So for example, in mass spectrometry, everything is separated by its weight or its mass. So if you have two things that have the exact same mass, they're going to show up at the same time on your data readout. And you don't know, do I have this one? Do I have this one? Do I have this one? Etc. You could have both. You could have one or the other, whatever. So you could combine that with liquid chromatography, and it will separate out those two compounds. And because they are different structures or different properties, they'll have a different time of separation. Like one will come out first and then the next one will drop off at different times. So now you have a better idea of like, okay, this one line on my mass spectrum is related to two different compounds because when I look at my liquid chromatography, it shows me two different things of the same mass came out at two different times. I hope that made sense. So liquid chromatography is very useful. It's incredibly useful when you combine it with mass spectrometry because you get even more data. And we would do one step further with our mass spectrometry and liquid chromatography pair up, and we would combine it with a photodiode array, which would actually get you wavelength information of knowing what wavelength of light each molecule would absorb. This was very important since we are working with light absorbing species, and we wanted to know like, will this absorb light in the atmosphere, because that has implications for warming, or does it not? So when you put the whole system together, it was, what was it? LCPDA HRMS. So liquid chromatography, photodiode array, high resolution mass spectrometry. That was a lot. Okay, somebody asked me what today's live stream is about. It's supposed to be about me continuing to work on this quilt. I've so far cut out one piece because I have gotten down a rabbit hole of talking about my chemical research at the moment, but we're just hanging, asking questions, cutting out fabric, getting to know each other more, hearing lab stories, all of the above. Are the mass spectrometry peaks based in empirical correlations? I don't know if I entirely understand what that means or have heard it in that phrase. So like when you get a mass spectrum at the end of the day, I should start bringing the whiteboard to these. I have an iPad. Oh, I have a dead Apple Pencil too. Can you predict? Oh my gosh, I can't spell. Can't read. Can you predict what peaks a certain molecule will produce? So yes. So you can, to a certain extent, yes. And there are actually entire libraries. Like you could go on to, I think NIST, NIST is one of the places that has it. The NIST library for mass spectrometry is they contain like base mass spectrum for all different types of molecules, and you can go on there and look it up and find it. And that is one of the ways that people identify compounds in their mass spectra. So is my pencil alive? Oh, my pencil's at 0%. Oh, okay. So if you're super bad glare. Okay, this is kind of crooked. So when you get a mass spectra, it will just kind of look like a bunch of lines on a page, and you can actually even end up with stuff like clusters of lines. And the x-axis will be, it's called M/Z. It's a mass to charge ratio. It's a lot of times people are just assuming the charge is a 1, so they're just saying that that x-axis is the mass, and then the y-axis is just like relative strength. So certain molecules, like I said, will have little specific groupings of each other, or they could have like very strong intensities. So we had, I can't exactly remember off the top of my head what this mass of styrene is, but styrene was one of the big compounds in our samples. So I think we'd always end up with like a mass. I think it's about 98, but I could be wrong. So let's just say it's 98 atomic mass units for styrene. There'd always be a very big line at about 98 on our x-axis because we knew we had a lot of styrene in there. Things, especially like large plastics or polymers, will often create those little groupings, like I mentioned, because they start out as really big molecules. And so the mass of that gets recorded, but then they might lose pieces and parts. So a smaller mass will be recorded because it like you have like a big molecule and then it like broke in half. So you would record also the mass peaks for like each of those half of a molecules. So you'd end up with a grouping. And that's where like the libraries are real and the standards are really helpful is for identifying molecules like that. The stuff we did was really disgusting and complicated. And so we didn't have a lot of like standard libraries to run our samples through. Instead, we did this very long process in Excel that was based on I barely remember. Oh gosh. It was based on long story short is we develop a list of masses and then run it through a calculator, and the calculator would tell you the kind of the calculator would give you its best guess at what type of molecule it was, and then you could verify it with other methods. This is why we didn't just solely rely on mass spectrometry for what we were doing, is we needed a couple of other things to really confirm that what we were seeing in our sample is what we were seeing in our sample. But other people do mass spectrometry on like oils or other hydrocarbons, and those are a lot easier to kind of like break down and read. We weren't trying to get like an exact list of every single thing in the sample accurately because that's a very hard thing to do. Complex, like I think we like are like, oh, it can't be that hard. Like in crime shows or other TV shows, you see them like they're like, oh, I put this sample in the mass spec and it came back and here is all of this stuff and there's pollen from this person's like shoe 10 years ago, and that's like not how it actually works. It's kind of our best guess, and we often like to confirm with other applications. Yeah, it does kind of look like a vibration spectrum chart. A lot of things in science, I think, tend to have like just straight lines of information on them. But yeah, long story short, you can predict what peaks will show up on a max spec, especially if you know what's actually in your sample. Some people do start out, like some people's entire research is on creating more like stuff for the libraries or more standards or like understanding specific patterns in mass spectra. That was not what we were looking for. Is we were looking for like, what is in this? One of the other things we used a lot of stuff. So like I said, we used that like liquid chromatography combined with wavelength analyzer, combined with mass spectrometry. But we also did, I was trying to iron this fabric and I got distracted. We also did something called stixsum, which was scanning transmission X-ray microscopy. And the gist of everything in science, I'm pretty sure, is like shine a light at it or shine some sort of wavelength of light or hit it with some sort of particle and like see what happens. And that's what you do in stixsum. So in stixsum, it's like the way a normal microscope would work. Like you put a sample in and you shine light in it and you like can move it around and see it, except instead of visible light, which is how a typical compound light microscope works, you're using an X-ray. That's where, like, scanning transmission X-ray microscopy comes in. And then when you use that, so you put your sample on your sample holder and you run it through an X-ray beam, and it gives you information about your sample. And in this specific case, it could tell you about the this is so much science. I'm trying to really reach back in my brain. Remember, the data you get back from running your sample through an X-ray beam has to do with the particular carbon in a sample. So carbon, element on the periodic table, it has a lot of magical things it could do. But so it could form a single bond with another molecule. It could form a double bond with a molecule, even triple bonds. It can be attached to oxygen. It could be attached to hydrogen. It could be attached to like anything almost. And so whatever that carbon is attached to changes the type of information you get when you run stixsum. And you pair stixsum with NextSaf, which is near edge X-ray absorption fine structure spectroscopy. I can't believe I remember half these acronyms. And you run the stixsum NextSaf, you get a beautiful picture of your tiny little particle, and you understand what type of carbon it is made out of. Because things that, like a carbon bound to another carbon, is going to behave very, very differently than a carbon bound to a oxygen. So when you have those different types of carbon around in your molecule, you can actually like see what a tiny little particle is made up of at a big picture scale. So we had stixsum NextSaf to tell us like, hey, this area contained a lot of carbons bonded to hydrogens, or this one had a lot of carbons bonded to oxygen. And then we had our mass spectrometry data to kind of like tell us specifically these chemical compounds are in here. That was a lot. We even did more stuff too. We did a lot of stuff. Why are modern molecules so good at parties? They're great at breaking the ice. Nice. Thank you for sharing science jokes. I do love a good science joke. Yes, that's a lot of my science background. I think that is all I have to say for that's my chemistry lab work. If anyone wants to hear about my biology lab work, also let me know. Can you talk about PFAS if you know anything about them? I know a little bit about PFAS. So that is, oh gosh, I think it's, I'm gonna have to look it up. I think it's either like persistent fluorinated alkyl substances. There's so many acronyms. Oh, I was actually going to say polyfluoroalkyl substances. So these are a group of compounds that have fluorine attached to them, another element on the periodic table, and then alkyl just refers to these like long strains of hydrocarbons. Alkyl is like a long strain of carbon. So it's like a lot of carbons, and then instead of having necessarily a bunch of hydrogens attached to those carbons, or sometimes there is hydrogen attached to those carbons, there's a lot of fluorines attached to them. So just like, I know Teflon, I think, falls into the PFAS category. And again, this isn't my I will share what I know about them. I will find out even more about them eventually. Somebody in my lab took a look at PFAS in firefighting foam and how that kind of ends up in the environment after they fight a fire. So like if you were to have like a long chain, if anybody's familiar with like chemical notation, each of these little like sections right here is a carbon. You'd have a bunch of carbons and then you'd have fluorines like all over and attached to them. That's like the general chemical structure of PFASs. And they're often used, I believe, like I said, I think Teflon is one, or Teflon's involved in one. So like for like non-stick surfaces, or like a lot of like fire retardants are PFAS. So I don't think they do this anymore, but I cannot be 100% sure. But like children's pajamas are often covered in flame retardant, or like I said, they used to cover them in flame retardants to prevent your child like from catching on fire if the fire were to happen. Or like firefighting foam contains PFASs. And the main issue with these is they're not very good for your body, but they also stick around in the environment for a very long period of time. So they also don't really break down in the environment. And so once they're there, they're kind of stuck there. And that was part of the reason, like I said, one of my lab mates was looking at PFASs in firefighting foam, because firefighting is like, if the firefighters are using the foam, they're putting out the fire, that's really great, but it's going into the environment afterwards, and we don't have control over that, which is not great. So yeah, they stick around in the environment for a very long time, and things that stick around in the environment for a very long time run into the risk of being bioaccumulated and biomagnified. So this applies to stuff like heavy metals as well. That wasn't supposed to be 2 1/4 inches. That was supposed to be 1 1/4 inch. Okay, whatever. So when you have something that is bioaccumulated, it means once you eat it, it's stuck in your body. It doesn't like pass out of your body. And then once something, or this works better when I talk to like a lower level food chain. So for like if an insect were to eat grass that had been covered in PFAS, and then so it's got PFAS in its body, and then what did I say? A bug. I said a bug. And then like a bird was to eat that bug, and then something else was to eat that bird. Each of those things are taking the PFAS that started out in the body of, or that started out covering the grass, and it's just growing more and more as you go up the food chain. So that bug maybe have eaten 5 pieces of grass before it got eaten. So that's 5 times the amount of PFAS that originally started in each grass. That bird may have eaten like 5 more bugs than that. What eats a bird? A bigger bird, let's say. A bigger bird eats 5 smaller birds, and so on and so on. And you have an entire accumulation and magnification of these really harmful toxins in the environment and in bodies. That's why whales and sharks, and dolphins in the ocean are at particular risk of thanks to pollution, because they're at near the top of their food chains, and they're eating everything underneath them that is bad for those things, and they're getting the full brunt of it. This is also why there are typically restrictions, especially for children and women who are pregnant, surrounding like tuna and salmon and big fish, because the bigger they are as an animal, the chances you have of accumulating and magnifying like lead, other heavy metals, PFASs, into plastics even into your body. And that is something that greatly concerns us too, because we're the top of the food chain in our world. Yes. So there probably is some PFAS in everybody's blood, in the same way that, there's probably plastics in all of our blood and a bunch of other stuff that we don't want there. Yeah. It's not great. It's not great. But my, like, well, thank you. My husband is very specific about like not having any kind of like Teflon coated pans or any nonstick surfaces in the house, because of yes, mercury is one of the big ones that gets bioaccumulated, because of the like Teflon and other nonstick surfaces are not good for you. And then also, if you put the pan on and you let it heat up, those things kind of like go into the air around you and are bad for you to breathe in too. So I'm not saying that everybody should fear their nonstick surfaces, but also sometimes modern day technology is not as good as the old school stuff. So I cook most of what we eat in cast iron, which I'm sure probably has its own problems, but what doesn't have a problem nowadays? Oh, thank you for enjoying my explanations. I always hope they're good. Sometimes I feel like I get lost in the middle of an explanation, and I'm like, I don't even know if this made sense. But thank you. It's actually really cool because there are some, speaking of like mercuries and leads and heavy metals, they end up in the soil a lot of times because of like burning things that contain them, and they'll end up in the soil in the same way they end up in the water and so forth and so on. And there are actually like certain plants and stuff like that that when you grow them in the soil can actually take those heavy metals out of the soil, and they call that bioremediation. So that's like, I don't know at what scale this is practiced. I don't know how practical it is, but it is kind of like a fun fact almost that there is the ability to kind of try to help and reverse some of this issue. Yeah, fish is really good. I really like salmon and I really like tuna. Whenever we go to the beach, I'm remiss if I do not get to like eat at least one piece of tuna. I'm like, I came here for the tuna. Oh yeah, so Teflon pans. I honestly think like I'm not gonna give like a huge recommendation of whether or not like what's gonna be great for you or what's gonna kill you in the end, because like honestly, this is really probably a bad way to look at it, but like the way I look at a lot of environmental issues is I'm like, yeah, are microplastics probably gonna kill me like eventually one day, but what's really gonna kill me first? I don't know if that makes things better or worse or like whatever. I don't think on the grand scheme of things, I don't think only cooking in a Teflon pan is gonna kill you the fastest, but maybe I don't know. I don't I don't know about I don't know that much about copper cookware other than my husband thinks it looks really cool and wants to replace all of our cookware one day with copper just because he thinks it looks cool. Which I mean, there are worse reasons to do things correct than something just looking cool. I managed to cut out approximately 2 pieces of fabric in the 42 minutes that I have been talking. Ooh. Boiling soapy water will clean anything out of a pan. Yeah, I mean, also just like clean your pans, I guess. I don't know. It's actually very like cooking, like I'm gonna drink some water. The indoor chemistry of a kitchen is fascinating, and probably not a good way. One of my professors in my undergrad, that's one of the things her research lab did, but kind of all of the indoor like chemistry that occurs from like cleaning agents, because those are released if it smells, it's releasing a chemical into the air, good or bad, it's just releasing something into the air. That's what makes it smell. So cleaning agents you're using, cooking stuff on the stovetop and like steam or smoke coming out of it, just like the heat, like all those different compounds colliding in lead to some fascinating and very complicated chemistry. And that's probably one of the good reasons to have good kitchen ventilation. I'm not as bad at like accidentally setting my kitchen on fire. My mother-in-law smokes up her kitchen all the time, and we always say that it's not a good dinner if the smoke alarm doesn't go off at least once. I mean, she always like cooks amazing things. This is not a dig on her cooking because it's fantastic. But you know it's gonna be good if the smoke alarm, extra good if the smoke alarm has gone off once or twice. I just mainly do it whenever I'm trying to cook pizza in my oven. That's the issue. Oh, that sounds amazing. I think I posted this on my Instagram. but I guess like a week ago, I just got back from a trip to Acadia National Park up in Maine, which was super fun. I had such a good time. And so we stopped at Cape Cod for a day along like our road tripping. We stopped at Cape Cod and let me restart this story. Went to Acadia National Park, road tripped it, stopped at Cape Cod for a day, and then spent like 4 days in Bar Harbor and made a small pit stop to Salem, Massachusetts along the way because it was on our road trip way. And I had to see Salem, Massachusetts because Halloween is my birthday and the best ever holiday ever. It was great. But we ate so much seafood. It was great. We had like lobster rolls, of course, lobster, like fried shrimp, fried oysters, clam chowder, lobster bisque, and like yeah, just sitting next to the ocean, like being next to the ocean, being on the coast was spectacular. I'm actually not a big like I don't like to sit on the beach. My pale skin is not meant for the beach, but I love the ocean and I love things in the ocean, and I freaking love tide pools. Hence why I'm making a sea star quilt for the entirety of this. But yeah, we ate so much good food. It was fan-freaking-tastic. I was very excited to go because I was like, sea stars? Like, Maine has sea stars. I like sea stars. And we spent 3 days in Acadia National Park itself, and every single day I had a tide pool hike planned for low tide. And oh yes, Halloween is like the best birthday to have ever. It's amazing. Sorry, it's like I guess we're almost halfway to Halloween. It counts. But we did like tide pool hikes. So we had to wait for the low tide to occur so that, like the tide pools would be exposed, etc. And the first day we went, pouring rain, like dumped rain on us all day, absolutely soaked. There is like probably like a couple inches of water sloshing around our rain boots. And we're like walking over these slippery rocks, like it is monsooning. It's not monsooning. We're like on this point, the wind is whipping, the waves are like gigantic. And all I want to do is find a freaking starfish. But I didn't find one that day. I did find a lot of snails though. There were so many snails there. It was like you're walking on a beach, but instead of grains of sand, it's snail shells. Like so many snails. So then the next day, same thing. We went out again. Wasn't pouring rain. It was just raining, like it was misting on and off, but didn't pour rain, so that was good. Already started out the trip a lot drier than we were the day before. Also trying to dry all of our stuff was not easy. I wore my warmest sweatshirt on that first day, and it got absolutely drenched, and it never dried out for the rest of the trip. So that was kind of sad. So didn't find a sea star the second day either. Spent probably 2 hours like walking up and down the slippery algae covered rocks, searching for gosh dang starfish, sea star. And sorry, I'm trying to do math here. And didn't find any starfish, but we did find a sea slug, which was fantastic. I was so excited to find a sea slug, a nudibranch. It was great. I was very excited. Still didn't see a sea star, but the sea slug made up for it. And then last day we were there, we walked to a tide pool that was on this land bridge out of town. It was sunny, it was beautiful, and we were flipping over rocks left and right. Had probably been out there for another 2 hours. And I was very sad until I finally flipped over a rock and it had a sea star underneath it. Oh, it was so exciting. Let me see if I can, like, I actually probably should figure out how, like, live stream things work, but so I can have, like, better control of sharing pictures than, like, showing you guys on my screen. my screen. But anyhow, this is the sea star in my hand. It was very tiny. And I'm guessing it probably lost some legs and is trying to regrow them back because 2 of its legs were longer than the rest. It's me holding it up next to the guidebook I brought with me so I could identify it. I think it's an Asterias species. I was very excited. It made the entire trip for me. Yeah, I would love to go tide pooling on the Oregon coast. I've spent time in Friday Harbor up in Washington, the San Juan Islands off of the coast of Washington State, doing tide pooling. That's where, like, when I did biology research in undergrad, I did all on sea star, sand dollar, sea urchins, and that's where we did a summer program and found all of our like animals out there. And then when I was in Alaska last summer, I was in Glacier Bay National Park up in Gustavus, Alaska last summer, and we were supposed to be going. What were we doing? Oh, we were supposed to be canoeing or kayaking, but it was too windy. So our tour guides were like, there are tide pools over here. Do you guys want to like look in the tide pools because it's too windy for us to kayak? And I was like, yes. There were so many starfish in those tide pools. It was so good. My mission, I think, like, in theory, starfish exist like in the beaches that I am closest to, which are in like Virginia, North Carolina area. I've never seen one. I think they're a lot harder to find, but I do have a mission to like find one this summer or sometime soon. I think I might try to like. I'm talking a lot. Give me 1 second. Stops mid thought to take a drink. So I really want to find like a sand, or I'd really love to find a sea star, a sea urchin, or a sand dollar, like hopefully this summer. Just because I don't live next to a place that has like, I don't live near a place that has gigantic tide pools like that, so I have to find what I have here and make the most out of it. But still travel to all of those super cool places that I still want to travel to. I would go back to Acadia National Park in like a heartbeat. It was amazing. If anybody has been there, highly recommend it. It was so good. It reminded me a lot of Alaska and like the Pacific Northwest. I mean, kind of similar region, just on the opposite side of the United States. But it was a lot of fun. It was a very good trip. Will travel for sea stars and good food. I mean, I think that's like 90% of the reason I like to travel anyways. I like to eat good food. Whew. Okay. Ooh. So many comments. I like if I get quiet, you guys give me comments. Let's thank you guys. Traveling for I have actually done a lot of overseas travel. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. Subcut into 1.25. And I have been to, where have I been? Well, I guess I've been to Canada, I've been to portions. I've been to like Vancouver, more specifically, and like a little bit of other parts of British Columbia. That was kind of like to and from Alaska trips. I've been to Japan. I went on a Sister Cities exchange program when I was in high school. That was pretty awesome. I have been to England, Ireland, and Wales. That was that was a Girl Scout trip to England, Ireland, and Wales as like a week and a half, like combined trip thing. My Girl Scout troop raised money for it for like 3 years to go. I also went to Ireland on my honeymoon, my husband, for 2 weeks, and we drove around the entire country, which was super fun. I went to England again with my dad. We spent a week in London, and then I guess attached to that trip, we went to Paris after that. So I've been to France, and then I have been to Poland because my college roommate's family lived there for a couple of years because her dad was in the FBI. Yeah, so England, Ireland, France, Poland, and Japan, and Canada. I love to travel a lot, and that is and Iceland. I forgot about Iceland. I've been to Iceland. Also super cool. I have enjoyed all of those places a lot. Where did you love the food the most? That is a great question. Probably, I would say probably Japan or, that's a hard question. Okay, Japan, I ate a lot of food that I couldn't tell you today what the heck it was. And I actually am a fairly picky eater. Fun fact about me, have been for like all of my life. But I used to be a lot worse. But I went to Japan and I stayed with a host family. And the choice between offending them by not eating something and eating a food that I didn't have any idea what it was, I'd rather not offend anybody than like not eat something I didn't know what it was. So that helped me a lot. I tried a lot of new foods in Japan because I didn't want to offend anybody, which may be one of the like most socially awkward things to exist. I ate a lot of really good food when I was in Poland, but I don't fully know if that one counts because it wasn't all like Polish food. Like the Polish food was amazing. Like I got pierogies and they gave me a gravy boat full of melted butter as my side. But I also had like ramen, and I had Mexican food, and I had Italian food, and I had Indian food, and I had Mediterranean food, and they were all amazing. And when I was in Poland, I ate a lot. So I just like ate a lot of generally good food in Poland. And then I'd probably have to go with Iceland. Also had really good food. That might have also been like we went with a. I feel like I'm gonna hurt somebody with this, but nobody's here to hurt. Okay, this is not threatening at all to have just be holding a knife like or a cutter like this. Iceland, the group we were traveling with was like we traveled with a tour group when we went to Iceland, so they had arranged all of the food for us, which is great. I love not having to make decisions about food. And so we ate at some like really good restaurants, ate a lot of fish, ate a lot of lamb. And then the hotels we stayed at had their own dining room and like just had amazing food. Like I said, a lot of fish, a lot of lamb. I tried like rye bread ice cream that's like kind of like famous over there. That was pretty good. So that was fun. Oh, and they had so much good bread. I really love bread, and that was like, okay, I gotta catch up. Okay, that was my food. Where I've been, yeah, Alaska is awesome. I've been 6 times. I've been quite a few times. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. Like, it has everything that I love. It's got mountains right next to the ocean. It has whales. It's got glaciers. It's got hiking. It's not hot in the summertime. That's a big one for me. So I definitely recommend Alaska. Yeah, I recommend that one. It's a great place to visit. I've taken a couple of cruises, and then, like I said, last summer I went and actually was like on land in Glacier Bay National Park for a week, and that was, oh gosh, it was amazing. What's your favorite starfish? That's a great question. So I feel like I have multiple answers to this. I don't know if that's allowable. So number one, I do have a sweet spot for the ochre sea star, OCHRE, or Pisaster. It rhymes with disaster, but with a P instead of a D. Pisaster ochraceus. They are what I studied in undergrad. So I like studied their larvae and how they like developed in response to different environmental conditions. So I didn't really work with the adult animals other than to like spawn them to make them make little larvae. But the Piesaster are great. They're these like beautiful purple and orange sea stars that are like this biggish. I love them. They're very spiny. Each like a lot of sea stars are kind of spiny. Some are not. I'll get to that in a second. But these ones are like particularly very spiny, and they actually like hurt your hand a lot to like pick up. And they're quite strong. So I've lost many a fight to a sea star on a rock trying to crawl off. These are very Piesaster are very common in the Pacific Northwest, and these guys are one of the biggest sea stars that are one of the biggest sea stars susceptible to sea star wasting disease, which is this disease that causes the sea stars to literally like disintegrate. It's sad. My sea stars died a lot in the aquariums, not because I killed them, but because they just had diseases. It was very sad. But those guys are super cool. A sea star isn't cool, am I right? Yeah. Probably anybody who doesn't actually give a crap about sea stars is like, no, sea stars are cool. Anyhow, the Pycnopodia or sunflower star are also super cool. These guys are so squishy. Like I said, the Piesaster, very hard, very like solid, hurt your hands if you try to pick them up. Very flippant, super strong. Pycnopodia or sunflower stars, super squishy. They have like so many arms. So you may think that like you're like, oh, sea stars. Sea stars have 5 arms. Some of them do, not all of them. And Pycnopodia have so many arms, and they're just so funky and squishy that they're also pretty fun. Not one of my favorites, but Solaster or a sun star also has like a lot more than 5 arms, and so those are pretty funny looking. What am I talking about? My favorite sea star. I thought I had another one in my brain, and now it has disappeared. Piesaster. Clearly unimportant. Oh, another cool one I like are leather stars. These guys are like they're firm, but they're very like their outside does kind of feel like leather. They're like about this, probably about this big. And they're just very smooth. They just feel cool. Yeah. That's like 3 different types of sea stars. But I do love Piesaster. They're cool. I'm just gonna continue to name sea stars now. Henricia, also cool. Those are blood stars. They're just bright red. Those are cool because they're bright red and they kind of stand out. Leptisterius, I don't know its common name, are kind of cool too because they have 6 arms. The one I saw in Maine, I think, was an Asterius. I don't know how, like, I was just excited. I don't know if that one makes its way up to my favorite, other than I was just so excited to see it that day. I don't know about on the general whole. And then chocolate chip sea stars are pretty cool. They, like, are studded with, these are, like, your common tropical one. They're studded with, like, little black dots on them, so they kind of look like chocolate chips. It's the name chocolate chip sea star. They're kind of cool. We had some in my lab I worked in undergrad, but then all of our sea urchins ate them. You think sea urchins are like not super vicious, or you're like, that's just a pile of spikes, I shouldn't step on it, but it's not really like a problem other than that, and then they like eat all your starfish. There's also Evasterius, or the common sea star, I think, that I've seen, and those look very similar to Piesaster, except they're different colored, and they are like they're a little bit different colored and shaped a little bit differently, but it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the 2 of them. Yeah. Sea stars. I have no plans to go to Norway, but then like as of now, but that would be a cool place to visit eventually. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's like, barring political and civil unrest, I ideally would love to go to every single place in the entire world just to experience it. Yeah, so I don't know if deer wasting disease and sea star wasting disease has the same like cause or like the same virus or etc. But yeah, it is, as far as I know, like a similar kind of like pathogen. Like as far as I know, like deer wasting disease, the deer just kind of fall apart. The sea stars also just kind of fall apart. Like they'll look healthy and then all of a sudden they'll start like losing arms and stuff, but they won't grow the arms back because sea stars will often lose arms as a way to evade predators, and they can grow those back. But if they lose them in sea star wasting disease, they don't grow back, and then eventually the entire animal falls apart. And then I would have to take out in the lab I worked in, we had an aquarium room where we kept all of our animals in. My sea stars were in there, and we tended to their tanks, and I would have to take all of their arms out every single time they lost one. And it's kind of like funny, not funny, but it was kind of interesting to see like a sea star with like 2 arms like still trying to crawl around the tank. Kind of sad, but like just the persistence. They would just kind of keep going until literally they had all fallen apart. Little buddies. Sad times. Okay, I finally got a set of fabric cut out. I don't know who wasn't here the last time, but I want to share with you guys this fabric that I'm cutting out real quick. I'll just flash this up here again. We're an hour in. I've been talking a lot. I'm working on a quilt that's actually got sea stars on it while I got sea stars on the brain. And it comes with the absolute cutest fabric. So like the one I'm about to cut next has little fishies on it. And this one's got like seahorses on it. And there's several of this one in different colors with these seashell prints. We come for the crafts, we stay for talking. I'm here for the crafts and for talking. Thank you. And then like, this one's got jellyfish. Or fish. This one is a personal favorite. It's got sea urchin skeletons, some sea stars. Yeah, this is gorgeous fabric. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Where are we at in our line? Okay. Okay, yeah, sea urchins do eat a lot of kind of crazy things. We actually, so like I said, in the aquarium room, we had to tend to all the tanks, and each of the tanks would have a like filter and a chiller if it was a cold water tank to keep the water cold, keep the water clean. And these had electrical cords that ran into the tank because they're plugged in. And we were always told, before you stick your hand in the tank, turn off the tank. Because even though you shouldn't get electrocuted because all the wires are covered, one time one of the sea urchins chewed through the wire in the tank, and so when my friend stuck her hand in there, she got shocked because the sea urchin had eaten the wire. Sea urchins are wild. Yeah, they're pretty brutal. I was actually at the aquarium yesterday. At an aquarium yesterday, and I was watching this sea urchin in the touch tank. They had just put mussels in the touch tank for the sea urchins and the hermit crabs to eat. I was watching this sea urchin, like just, I'm zooming as much as a sea urchin can zoom, but just zooming across the bottom of that tank, like hull and spines in order to get you the food they had just put in there. It was like kind of funny. You don't think about like sea urchins really moving. They do move until you see one move, and it's like, whew, like that's crazy. Australia and humans diverged 618 million years ago. That is quite a lot. It is interesting though. So like sea stars, sea urchins, brain-splitting sand dollars, brittle stars, sea cucumbers are all in phylum Echinoderm. And like if you remember, your King Philip came over for a great spaghetti mnemonic. So they're in the animal kingdom, and then they're in the phylum Echinoderm. We are in the phylum Chordata, which or chordates. I ran out of breath. Anyhow, where I was going with this, we're in the phylum Chordata. Sea stars, sand dollars, etc. are in the phylum Echinodermata, and they're actually, oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, let me take one further step back. In addition to the animal kingdom being divided into like phylums and then like classes and families and etc., they're also divided into protostomes, what are called protostomes or what are called deuterostomes. And protostomes mean when the cells are first developing for an animal, the mouth develops first. In a deuterostome, the anus develops first. Humans are deuterostomes, so we all start as, I'm sure several of you heard the joke before, that we all started as a-holes once, and some of us never get past that stage. But echinoderms are actually also deuterostomes. So in the grand scheme of the animal kingdom in phylogeny, echinoderms are actually more closely related to us than a lot of other things in the animal kingdom are. Of course, they like still don't have a backbone, and like they're still very far away from us. But well, that was a really far detour. They are closer in relation to us than a lot of the other animal kingdom is. And the animal kingdom is pretty gigantic. I think we often view like, we're like, oh, there's really not that many animals. And then you like think about it, and like there are so many other animals out there that we don't even think about. And honestly, like half of them are worms. Like, gonna go on a tangent about worms now. Like so much of the animal kingdom is worms. You have your flatworms, roundworms, segmented worms. Like a lot of the animal kingdom is worms. A lot of the animal kingdom is invertebrates. Like most animals do not have a backbone. We have backbones. We're special. I guess. I don't know if we're special. Yeah, that makes sense for sea urchins being considered an invasive species, especially if the predators of the sea urchins are not around, because they've been taken out for other reasons. So I may have mentioned this before, like on my last live stream or someplace on my channel about like trophic cascades, because each level of a food chain is called like a trophic level. And if you have a mess up in one part of the food chain, it's going to cascade down into other parts of the food chain. And this is very famously studied with this is a lot to talk about. This was famously studied with like sea urchins, with kelp, with the food chain of kelp, sea urchins, which eat the kelp, sea otters, and killer whales. And so when there were a lot of sea otters, then the sea otters ate a lot of sea urchins. That means there were less sea urchins to eat the kelp. So the kelp increased in population because there wasn't as much stuff eating it. When like when the fur traders came and captured and killed a lot of otters for the fur trade, there was no longer anything eating the sea urchins, so now nothing was there to control the sea urchin populations, and therefore all the kelp disappeared because all the sea urchins ate the kelp. So I remember this stuff. And then eventually like killer whales got like introduced kind of to that cycle as well, because killer whales would eat the sea otters, and if the sea otter populations were down, then the sea urchin populations would go up, and then the kelp populations would go down. So it's like kind of this back and forth, up and down, just because different things eat each other in the food system. So yeah, sea urchins are invasive species sometimes, but the other issue with sea urchins is actually a lot of them do get decimated for the food trade, because uni sea urchin is really popular, especially in Japan, and those sea urchins, which I believe they come from red sea urchins, are getting harder to find because everybody's eating them. It's actually really interesting. If any of you guys have seen like lionfish in a zoo or an aquarium, those are invasive species. And one of the things that they were trying to do to like control the lionfish population was like to turn them into like to put them in the food industry, because humans are really good at decimating populations of stuff. So if you could advertise something and market it as a food, we probably would get rid of a lot of invasive species. Oh yeah, gooey ducks are wild. I can't remember how they're spelled either. I think it's just GEO duck, but it's pronounced gooey duck, but I could be wrong about that. Gooey ducks are pretty wild. I don't actually know a lot about them. They're that clam that have the giant, I guess, like proboscis sticking out of it that looks quite inappropriate. But if you like, it just is like a normal clam at the bottom of it, or I think a siphon might be the better word for it. I don't know a lot about them. I do know that when I was in Friday Harbor, we spent like an hour trying to dig a gooey duck out of the sand, and my advisor nearly fell in the water trying to dig up the gooey duck. We finally did put it in the aquarium for the rest of the summer. I don't really know why we never did anything with it. Yeah, I have to look more into lionfish because I just know they're invasive species, but I don't really know what we're like trying to do about them nowadays. Oh, interesting. Huge illegal trade around gooey ducks. Fascinating. I would not be surprised by people trying to do that. I used to watch the Food Network a lot, and every once in a while they put gooey duck in like a basket on Chopped, and the people on Chopped would be like, "What the heck is this?" Which is a fair question. Again, a very odd looking animal. I really like the amount of things that we've had like illegal trade over. Like I don't know much about it, so if anybody knows more about it than me, do not like I guess I don't know much about it. But I love the fact that like the Dutch like had like tulip trades, and there was probably a tulip black market, and like that, like their entire economy was built around tulip bulbs. And that was kind of wild to me. Just like the weird things we decide to like the things that end up getting valued, so therefore we base an economy around it. Humans are a wild species. Sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I think biologists struggle to study animals in the wild and learn their behaviors and figure out like what's going on about them. But like, how are we supposed to do that if like we don't know what the heck people are supposed to do? Maybe economists are like the biologists of humans. That's not right. I think that's probably technically like anthropology and psychology and etc. I think you could put maybe economists in that same section. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. I'm just talking at this point. And cutting strips of fabric. Which I've been doing a very bad job about trying to keep up on this video, because I've just had so much fun telling you guys about science. I think this is fun for me because it is hard in the YouTube setting to like get a lot of like, I mean, you don't have any live feedback or even any feedback at all unless somebody comments on your videos, and I really appreciate comments on my videos. Like, I love when I get good comments on my videos. So thank you to all who comment on my videos and interact with me in that way. Makes me, I mean, that is like the best part of doing this in my head. Is like, so I do struggle a lot to like have a connection and to like feel like anybody actually cares what I'm talking about. And I mean, maybe people don't, and that's like fine, because I'm just trying my best out here, and people are not obligated to enjoy whatever I'm doing, but doing a live stream is fun to let me like actually have like feedback and like talk to people and stuff like that, which is something I have really been missing recently. And I just cut all of those squares the wrong shape. But I said something really nice, so it counts. Okay, yeah, I'll have to check out Nathaniel Sorensen about lionfish. Okay, cool. I started out really wanting to do marine biology, and I transitioned into chemistry, got my like master's degree in chemistry, but I've been recently more pulled back kind of to that marine biology side. So I definitely think I want to get a little bit more into that again and learn more about what's going on in the marine biology world. I miss it. And yeah, I definitely cut all of these to the wrong size. Genius. Some days. Oh. Thank you. More comments and another subscriber. Thank you. Yeah, it's really like, I get it. Like, because I think I've actually been a lot more conscious about like the way I interact on social media now, and like if I'm liking stuff, if I'm commenting stuff, because it does make a really big difference, and it can be hard. Like I'll talk to some of my friends and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I loved your last video, or like you were doing this, and I'm like, I didn't even know you were paying attention, but I'm glad you were. Just because it's like it's hard. It takes a lot of energy to do stuff. And you're like, yeah, I'll just watch this video and I'll enjoy it, but then you're like, oh, I gotta go do something, I didn't get to finish it, like, etc. And I get it. Because like I'm not great at commenting. I'm not great at liking stuff, but I'm trying to be better. And I also usually try to respond to everybody who does comment on my page to give love and attention. But I did this last year. I got invited to a local school STEM day to talk at their STEM day and do an activity with the students, and they invited me back this year. So I did that like at the beginning of April, and it was just super fun to like get out of the house, which I honestly never do either, and like talk to people in person. And like, I mean, I was talking to like a group of like K through 5th graders on like the environment. I don't think they actually cared about it. I think they were just glad to not be in class for 20 minutes. But it still felt good to like at least have one person to like be there. I don't know, just like, cool, this person liked me, they're applauding me, they kind of listened to me. Somebody actually cares what I'm doing. But also, I guess you don't have to care what I'm doing. We're all just living our lives, doing our best. Life is hard sometimes. Ooh, running an animal sanctuary would be cool. I am thinking about what to do with my life, because this is the constant existential thoughts that exist in my head. And I think I'm trying to look out for the local like marine mammal stranding response team we have like near here, to look into like if they ever have any openings for volunteers or anything like that. I'm also trying to keep my eye on like jobs at the local aquarium, because I think that would be a lot of fun. I applied to a couple, but I'm guessing they already had the position filled because they never like got back to me, which was sad. I'm like, I'm qualified to talk to people about science. This is what I do every day, is talk to people about science. Like, let me at your guests. I want to talk to them about the oceans. But oh, sorry. But yeah, I have really been feeling the marine biology recently come back into entertainment value for me. I'm thinking, like I mentioned earlier, my goal is to try to like start finding the like sea stars, sand dollars, etc. that I love at my like more local beaches. I know they exist. I know they're harder to find, but I know they exist. So I might make some videos of me trying to like animal hunt is not the right word because I'm not actually hunting animals. Animal exploration, like going on an exploration to find animals. That feels better. Not hunting them. I'm not spearfishing sand dollars. I don't actually know if you could. Anyhow, so if that is something you guys would be interested in, like watching me wander around the beach trying to find stuff, let me know. Maybe that would be interesting. See what I can find. And just I would love to just learn more about the coastal ecology that goes around here, because I honestly probably know more about marine species that are on the west coast than I do on the east coast. And while that is fun, seek and find, that is better than an animal hunt. Not going on an animal hunt, not hunting animals here. I do not hunt animals. For the record. Not that I think anybody on here would think I hunt animals, but I do not. Not my jam. But yeah, I think that'd be fun. And give me something to do. The fish is too. Yeah, give me something to do instead of like roasting in the sun on the beach and melting on the inside. I actually really wish, like, I love going to the beach in the off season, so like not the summertime, because it is cooler and there are less people. And where it is cold and there are no people, no, not cold. Where it is cooler and there are no people is a place I like to be. There you go. Yeah, I'm hunting animal. I guess, yeah, I'm not hunting for animal. Or I don't know. Yeah. I will not, no animals will be harmed in the making of that content. I promise. My husband wouldn't even let me bring home a starfish from Acadia National Park, regardless of the fact that, it's like illegal. Did I cut? Nope, these are the right length. Not that I would have done that. These are not, for the record. As much as I love starfish, I would not do anything illegal. I'm a good person. Oh yeah, you can hunt invasive species. I'm okay with that. One of the labs we did when I was an undergrad was like for intro biology, was like a vegetation, it was like a vegetation analysis of areas on campus where deer were allowed to forage and where deer were not allowed to forage. And like obviously the areas where there were deer on campus were like devoid of vegetation. And because like it was a college campus, like the area, like you're not allowed to hunt on a college campus. So the deer there were like maniacs. Like there were so many deer and they were completely unafraid of people. They were only like a second step below terrifying as the squirrels were. College squirrels be built different. What am I trying? But I'm not done with this fabric. So I am for hunting certain species as a matter of population control legally, because everything occurs in a balance. See? Yeah, everything. Yeah. Oh, am I looking at DNA? Let me clone some starfish. I'll just take an arm. It'll grow back, right? Yeah. No. It's fine. Yeah, need some on-campus links. Yeah, that would go over super well. I think it would just be better to let the students shoot them. No, actually, no, that would be a bad idea too. Really weird story, but my freshman year of college, one of the dorms was actually caught hunting and eating the squirrels on campus. Not a good look. But that happened. Not a good look. The squirrels on campus also terrifying. Just yeah. People do weird stuff when they are allowed to live on their own for the first time. Well, I went to a small college, so we actually did not need to control the human population with links. This is a really weird fun fact about myself, but I don't know if it's a weird fun fact or if it's just like I'm a weird kid, but when I was a kid, I had a favorite page in my children's dictionary, my illustrated children's dictionary, and my favorite page was the links page. It had a picture of a lynx on it. So I don't know why I had a favorite page in the dictionary as a kid, but I did. And it had a lynx on it. This comment section is turning into like the what's that? So like the old woman who's like swallowed a fly, so she swallowed like a spider and then a bird and then a cat and then a dog and then a horse, like etc. That's what this is feeling like. I appreciate. I support it. I mean, that's kind of what people actually end up doing. Like humans end up doing in ecological disaster situations, is they will oh crap, we just accidentally released this invasive species. Let's put this other thing in there that'll definitely control that. Oh no, and now it's messed up again. And yeah, how on earth? How would we know this was gonna go wrong? Other than every single time we try to mess with nature, something else goes wrong. Anyhow, I love human management of the ecosystem. I remember I took like a wetlands ecosystem course and like a freshwater ecology course in college. And like I swear, like half of that class was just like, and then the Army Corps of Engineers took all of the curves out of this river and straightened it. And then they realized that when they straightened the river, it flooded the coastline, or it flooded the banks of the river. And then when the banks of the river got flooded, they decided to put all the curves back into the river. Like, it was just the Army Corps of Engineers doing a bunch of stuff to nature and then reversing everything they had done to nature. Like, I swear that was like what half that class was. Okay, there was more to the class than this, but there was a lot of Army Corps of Engineers messing with wildlife. Yeah, I don't like. I guess you can eat squirrel. Carry on with your squirrel life. I've never eaten a squirrel. I can't believe they were catching and eating squirrels and cooking them in like the dorm kitchens. Like, what were you doing? What on earth? I don't even know. I feel like college was never its all moment. Something weird like happened in that dorm like every single year. Not every single year, but like several years in a row, something weird, like some sort of scandal would rock that dorm. And then when I was like a junior in college, they were like, all right, we're gonna take this dorm and we're going to make it no longer a freshman dorm. I think trying to like cut the weirdness situation going on. Like, maybe freshmen, the curse here only applies to freshmen or something. I don't know. It was weird. College was odd. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, river, like, I mean, all ecosystems are incredibly complicated. I would not be surprised to hear that because, I mean, yeah, if you, like, I mean, that kind of goes into, like, wolves and, like, uh, wolves and deer and like stuff like that goes into the kind of the trophic cascade I was talking about earlier. If you have wolf populations, increased wolf populations is going to decrease deer populations, which are going to increase the amount of grass because there's not as much deer like feeding on the grass and stuff like that. So yeah, I believe that like definitely vegetation growth efforts and all sorts of stuff like that are very important for stabilizing riverbanks or even like sand dunes on a beach. The dune grass and dune grass restoration efforts are very important to stabilizing all of that and preventing flooding and stuff like that. It's like wild. It was actually interesting. The ah, Oh, like there was I actually looked it up recently, but there's this idea for like Pleistocene Park, kind of like Jurassic Park, but with like Pleistocene era animals to bring back like mammoths and like all sorts of those like really big prehistoric grassland grazers, because the idea is that like the way they change the landscape by like eating grass and trampling vegetation actually sequestered more carbon out of the atmosphere, and so they were like exploring it as a potential solution for like atmospheric warming. Weird. um but it is weird, like just like the change, like the differences like big grass grazing animals can have on an area, and then when they're not there, the difference it like makes in like changing from grassland area to forest area. Or even if you just think about like maybe the history of your area and just probably how geologically close, no, what am I trying to say, how closely in geological history that area might have looked entirely different. For example, when I was in Alaska, we went on a hike that led to a plane crash that had happened in the 50s, and the tour guide was telling us that like when that plane crashed in that area, there were absolutely no trees. Um and that was only in the 1950s, so over the past like 70 years, like trees have grown up all around that area, and it looks completely different than it did just like 70 years ago. I would have never guessed like there weren't any trees back then, because it looks like there are giant trees there now. So it is very interesting how just even variations in animals and stuff like that can dramatically change a landscape. um I would take, I don't know if anybody else is reading the comments. I would take an 8 a.m. Japanese class for a whole semester. I'm pretty sure that's somebody I went to college with. Thanks for joining my live stream. Yeah, I took 8 a.m. Japanese for an entire semester. Or no, actually 2 semesters in a row. So for an entire freshman year of college, I took 8 a.m. Japanese every day. Another fun fact about me. Learning so much about me, aren't we? That's true. Pleistocene Park is going to need some major rebranding. I mean, maybe that's why they ended up with Jurassic Park, even though not all of the animals in Jurassic Park were actually from the Jurassic era. Because they were like, Paleozoic Park? That doesn't have a good Triassic Park? No. Jurassic Park. That's where it's at, everyone. That was definitely what the board meeting was like. Wasn't there, but I can tell you that's 100% what it was like. Oh gosh. Thank you. Most reputations. I don't know that much about dinosaurs, or the periods of the earth. So I will take your word for that. I just know that, like, I think, what is it like? I feel like I heard it somewhere, so my mom might not be true, but like the difference in time period from like when like 2 different dinosaur species lived was like greater than the distance of time period from like us to the last dinosaur species or something like that. But I mean, Jurassic Park was all about the branding. So like, how could they not like embrace just the name, the great name, and the fantastic logo? Yeah, I know. I'll have to take your word on Cretaceous. I'm not. I honestly don't know. I'm not. I love dinosaurs. I love dinosaur decorated things. I'm not the worldwide expert in dinosaurs. You'd have to ask like a 4-year-old kid who's really into dinosaurs. They'd probably know. I feel like little kids, when they're in their dinosaur phases, like, they know everything and they're pronouncing these words. You're like, you can't even say like, it's like, you can't even say car, and you're out here like saying Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like, that was probably a terrible example. 3, 4, 5, quarter. I remember one time in grad school, we were at like trivia, and there was some sort of question asked about like it was some sort of question about one of the time periods of the Earth, and one of my friends in the lab was like an anthropologist, and like, with all love, a gigantic nerd. We all are. We're all gigantic nerds. He was just particular, like, his niche was even, I don't even know. He just knew so many things. And that was one of the things he really knew a lot about. And we actually got the question wrong kind of wrong, because he gave too specific of an answer. Like, he was like this very specific time period range versus like the general overall range that they were asking for. So we actually got that question wrong because he was too specific. So that was kind of funny. We were like, no, you were too accurate with your answer. He was like, that's the answer. It was a good time. Okay, what am I making? Oh, okay, yeah. For the people who have joined in recently, thank you for joining. For the people who have been here this whole time or most of the time, thank you for still listening to me. I'm working on a Sea Star ocean quilt. I got this kit for my birthday last year, and last live stream, I started cutting out the fabric. Still have to cut out fabric, and one day I will get to sew it. But it's super cute. And it's got like jellyfish and sea star and sea urchin and seahorse fabric, and I love those things. How could I resist? Epic birthday present. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one day I'll like not have to cut out fabric anymore. It's a good time. I don't even know what I was talking about. Well, we were talking about the branding of Jurassic Park. I think we can. That was a good conversation topic. One, 2, 3, 4. No. Okay. It was one piece short, so I'm gonna have to cut out another strip. Anyhow, let's see. What can we talk about? Oh, I actually have, speaking, we can go back to the echinoderms. I actually have some sea urchin skeletons sitting on my desk right here. If nobody has seen these before, I think whenever I did the video, like I did a video where I made a hat that looked like this because I thought it'd be like so cute. And I think I had lost these. I didn't have them with me at the time. But yeah, so this is a sea urchin skeleton or a sea urchin test. And this is what they look like when all of their spines are gone. These are super fragile. So I actually have a third one. There's my camera. I have a third one, but it's like kind of fell apart in the move. So I have to glue it back together. But this down here is their mouth, or where their mouth would be when they were alive. Pretty cool. And you could even see like camera. I don't know if you could see, but there's little tiny holes that are like on either side of these like bumps, and that's where like the tube feet, so the little tiny like things, that was a bad description. They're called tube feet. I would say they're almost kind of like tentacles on an octopus. But that's where those stick out, and that's how they move. So earlier I mentioned I was at an aquarium yesterday, and there was a sea urchin there hauling butt across the tank to some food, and it was using these tiny little tube feet, tiny little suction cups, basically, to like move itself. That was a really bad mime of a sea urchin moving. So their mouths would be face down. So this is like how they would sit on the ocean floor, and their mouth is here. Also, I think it happens to be their butt also. And same thing with sea stars, face down, and then face down on the floor, and then their mouth would be underneath here. I also have a sand dollar, which is, yes, dual function orifice. If anybody has seen I cannot remember the name of the YouTuber, but the guy who does the true facts videos, the one about the like true facts about a sea pig. If you've ever seen that video, it's hilarious. Like, it's hilarious. If you haven't seen that video, I think it's True Facts About a Sea Pig. Go watch it. It's amazing. They have yes, thank you, Z Frank. Great super great, weirdly informational and hilarious YouTube videos. I aspire. But yes, here's a sand dollar. Sand dollars are actually a specialized type of sea urchin, if you did not know that. And same deal, the mouth here though is like a lot smaller. But yeah, little mouth, sand dollar. And then there are these really tiny holes at the top. Oh gosh, around here. And that's where the eggs or sperm come out when they spawn, is up there. So actually in the lab, when we would spawn them for the purposes of creating sand dollar larvae, you inject them with potassium iodide? That sounds right. Yeah, potassium iodide. You inject the sand dollar with potassium iodide, and then you like flip them upside down. And we used a shot glass, but I guess if you were not being janky like us, you'd use an actual beaker, flip them upside down in a shot glass, and then their eggs or sperm pour out. It does kind of look like veins. I don't think it is. I think it's just the structure. I just think this side didn't get bleached as much as the other side. But it could be part of their Wait, no, what do they have? Sorry. I'm trying to think of what they look like when they're alive. They have these little bristles all over them when they're alive. So that was probably also part of the system that had like all the bristles in there in the same way that these have little grooves on them. Similar situation. So yeah, this would be these two are like in the same class. The name of the class is escaping me at this point. Oh, sorry. They are in class Echinoidea. There we go. So yeah, sand dollars are just flattened specialized sea urchins. Fun fact. Oh, a sea urchin could be a hat and a sand dollar shield. That would be really cute, actually. That could be funny. I love if you've ever seen the memes or like the videos where people have like 3D printed out little hats for the live sea urchins to wear. Oh, I think those are hilarious. I kind of wish we had done that back when I worked in that lab, so I could have put a little sea urchin on its head. I feel like some echinoderm taxidermy art could be funny though. I probably would want to actually like get more stuff to do that though, because what am I looking for? I'm trying to get another piece of this. The sand dollar I actually collected off of a beach myself up in the San Juan Islands. There was like this beach just like full of sand dollars. Like you could like living sand dollars and dead ones, but like you could scoop your hands in and just like grab an armful of sand dollars. My friends and I collected like 100 in a minute. And then the sea urchins I got from my, like, every single time the whenever in my lab you got like a grant or an award from the college or something, you would get a, we call them eckies, like the Oscars, but eckies, echinoderms. And so those are from like the grants I got when I was an undergrad. My little prizes for getting the lab money. Yay! We love funding and research. Oh yeah, the Bob Payne starfish tide pool experiments. Those were really cool. Those were with the Pisaster that I was talking about earlier. I don't remember the full story off my top of my head. So if you're interested, go check out this PBS like episode, I guess. But this researcher, Bob Payne, would, like, this was back in the 70s, I want to say, maybe a little bit earlier. He would like go around and like take this like starfish out of the tide pools and like throw them back and like just keep removing them from the tide pools and kind of saw what happened. And what happened is that what the starfish were eating, the Pisaster were eating, were mussels. And when the like mussels were gone, or when the starfish were gone, the mussels increased in population size. Trophic cascade, or trophic interaction, and then the surrounding, like, there couldn't be as many species living in the tide pool because the mussels took over everything, and etc. When the starfish were put back, then the mussel populations went down. There was more space for other things, and that's actually where we get the concept of keystone species from. A keystone species is a species in the environment that has a larger population of it has a larger impact on its environment than it does for the size of the population. So keystone, like a keystone in a building, holds up a building and it's playing, like, holds a large amount of the weight even though it is a small part. A keystone species is kind of like holding up a lot of weight even though it is not a big part of it, even though it does not make up a large population size in the ecosystem. So the term keystone species was originally invented for a sea star, the Pisaster. Whew, so much talking. Otters, I think, are considered a keystone species. I think wolves might be too. I don't know about beavers. I know. So the other issue with some of these the term keystone species is it does get applied a lot and not necessarily where it might belong. So I can't say for certain. But beavers, I don't know if fall under keystone species, but they definitely are what's considered an ecosystem engineer. There's a lot of ecological terms. So beavers are definitely an ecosystem engineer, which is a type of species that provides value by altering the environment around it. And so beavers, because they create dams and alter river structures and turn them into like ponds or lakes, heavily alter the environment and create new environments and ecology because of that. So they are definitely considered ecosystem engineers. But I guess the exact definition in terms of like keystone species is kind of loosely applied at times, but definitely otters, beavers, and wolves are very impactful in the environment, even if they're not strictly considered a keystone species. Are humans a keystone species? We actually talked about this in my biology class one time, and I think we are not, because there's too many of us. I think we have such a big impact on our environment because there are so many of us. Bison are a important species as well for grasslands. Oh, and apparently prairie dogs are important too. Fascinating. Yeah, animals are animals are crazy. And the ecological interactions are crazy because you wouldn't think prairie dogs in this environment are freaking annoying. Let me get them out of here so I can do something with this land. And then if you were to do that, the land doesn't work anymore. That's interesting. Also, if anybody is unaware, I did a short on it last year. Prairie dogs endemically have the plague. So prairie dogs can carry the plague around, which is not very fun for prairie dog colonies or humans, but it is kind of an interesting, weird thing. Sometimes, if when I've been out in South Dakota or Wyoming and been to a place that has prairie dogs, Devil's Tower has a prairie dog colony right before you get to the tower part. And sometimes that area is closed because of an overly large breakout of the plague. Yeah, poor little prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are so cute though. If you haven't had the pleasure of seeing one in person, and you want to go to Wyoming for whatever reason, Devil's Tower in Wyoming, fantastic place to see prairie dogs. And they're so cute. Am I originally from Wyoming? No. My upbringing is it's really not that complicated. My dad was in the Navy, so he bounced around a little bit as I was growing up, but my family decided to move to Wyoming a couple of years ago, just kind of randomly. So I'm also not Asian. I get asked that weirdly a lot, though. I don't know why. Can find no Asian ancestry in my family tree. I'm from all the very pale countries, Scandinavia, England, Russian, all the pale countries. That's where I be from. But I do enjoy going out to Wyoming to visit my family, and I think it's a really cool landscape out there. And they have prairie dogs. It's great fun. All right, I'm moving on. For anybody who hasn't been here for a while, look at the seahorse fabric I'm about to cut. It's so cute. I should learn more about seahorses. I don't really know that much about seahorses either, but they're kind of fun. Animals be crazy. Wyoming does have all of the nature. That is correct. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't have ocean nature, but it has a lot of other nature. But I don't think a lot of people, well, maybe I'm unfamiliar with what a lot of other people think or know. I don't know how many people realize that Yellowstone is predominantly located in Wyoming, and so are the Grand Tetons. Because everybody's Wyoming, that's a lame place. What's in Wyoming? Super cool stuff. Okay. Yellowstone National Park, the Grand Tetons, Devil's Tower, just next door, in South Dakota, Mount Rushmore. I don't know. Cool state parks, cool mountains, the Bighorns. I'm just naming stuff at this point. Show some respect. There aren't any people. Wyoming wants to keep it that way. Wyoming also has psychotic weather and some crazy winters, so... But if it was perfect all the time, then there would be so many people there. Just saying. What? Beavers in England? I have to. Okay, I should start making a list of everything you guys like suggest, so I could like go back and look through it. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's kind of wild. What was the like? I feel like I saw this on a meme a while ago, of like scientists had figured out at some point that like coconuts just kind of migrated themselves onto like other islands because of like they can float. Definitely just cut that the wrong size, didn't I? Stopped thinking about what I was doing. Oh, that like coconuts floated to other islands. And so that people were like, coconuts are like animals because they're fuzzy and have milk, or they're mammals, they're fuzzy, have milk, and can move. But it's like kind of weird how like stuff could transport between islands without, or like get to places, and we're not entirely sure how. So but I don't know if you're referring like diamond dust snow in Wyoming is like, I don't know if that's when the snow is super fine, so everything's super sparkly. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if I've quite seen it, but I have seen the snow be like on the ground very sparkly, and that is pretty. Usually it's like, wait, I cut this to 2 inches. Usually I'm just getting pelted with absolute snow or hail if I'm there, which isn't very fun. But like I said, less people in Wyoming. That's nice. Ooh, eels are weird. Eels are very weird. Ooh, I believe. Okay, yeah, fish eggs could get transported by being stuck with the feet of. That's. I mean, I guess that could happen. I do not put it past like any weird mechanism of transport, and the fact that like with the beaver thing, if we don't know how they got there, we probably just haven't thought of a crazy enough of idea, like proposal for how it could have occurred. Yeah, eels are really weird, and then also what are really weird are, what's the name? Hellbenders, the gigantic salamanders. I went to the aquarium yesterday, and they had one, and it was like moving around the tank, and it was like this big and like super wrinkly and just like living its best little salamander life. And I was like, this is such a weird animal. And they're also called, I don't know if anybody's familiar with hellbenders. They're, like I said, gigantic salamanders, amphibious kind of. They're not lizards because they're amphibians, but I guess almost like a lizard, like if a lizard and a frog had a baby kind of deal. But they're also, the sign at the aquarium said that they're also called snot otters and lasagna lizards. And if that is not the best name you've ever heard, I don't know what is. Like snot otter, but then lasagna lizard? Lasagna lizard? Like, it's amazing. Like, who is coming up with this crap? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Big fan. Oh yeah, hagfish. Hagfish are disgusting. I just recently went through this phase where I was watching like all of Fear Factor, because that's, I don't know, binging TV shows is what I do when I'm not making science content. I'm binging a TV show while sewing usually. 4, 5, 6, 7. And they did like a Fear Factor challenge where they were like covered in hagfish slime. Oh, it was so gross. Ugh. Ugh. So gross. Disgusting. Yeah, there's a lot of really weird stuff in the ocean. And I feel like every single time you learn more about like what's going on in the ocean, you're kind of like, what is going on in the ocean? This is a great question. It's like I read this book about I don't remember her name. I still have the book on my bookshelf, but it was about this scientist who was like really like a pioneer in like underwater ocean exploration and like learning about some of the animals and stuff on the ocean floor, or like very, very deep ocean. And they were kind of curious about him because they're like, well, what do they, are they different colors or stuff like that? Like, why would anything be like have a color to it at the bottom of the ocean? Because there's no light for anything to see. So like, why would nature, I guess, even bother to put in a color? And they actually found that like a lot of stuff was kind of like, I wouldn't say necessarily colorful, but like had the like deep ocean creatures had a lot more color to them than they were expecting. I guess probably because it's so dark down there, nothing relies on color to like find stuff because you can't see anything. So it doesn't really truly matter what color you are because nobody can see you in the traditional sense because they're not using their eyes to see because there's no light. So it doesn't really matter what color you are. I thought that was kind of interesting. What? Leeches in the Himalayas are wild too. The cattle put their head down and drink, and they swim up in the sinuses and live there for a bit and go back to the lake to breathe later. Yeah, like animals have created really wild ways to get around to places. Actually, going back to the comment I made earlier about the true facts about the sea pigs video. I guess this wasn't to get around, but like the sea pig is a type of sea cucumber that has this like what is it, like the pearl fish, I think. The pearl fish lives in the butt of the sea cucumber because it gets protection there and it can eat food like surrounding the sea cucumber. Like, that's a weird strategy to live your life, living in the butt of another animal, but it works, I guess. Not ideal, but it's working for the pearlfish. But yeah. What is it in the in Jurassic Park? Ian Malcolm's character is like, life finds a way. That's true. Life always finds a way. All right, never drink. All right, I'm not trying to get leeches out here in the Himalayas. I'll keep that in mind if I ever go to the Himalayas, to be very wary of leeches. I think it's a good life strategy all around. I remember one time we were doing leeches are... Can't remember what phylum leeches are in. I used to know. They might be segmented worms too. What phylum leeches are in. Must Google. Phylum. Can I spell? Are leeches? Oh, okay. So leeches are in the phylum, or annelids, in the phylum Annelida, which is your segmented worms, which are related to like earthworms or annelids too. But yeah, so I remember in my zoology course, each week in our lab, we did like each different phylum in the animal kingdom. And the week we did annelids, we had a tank full of leeches. And did we dissect them? I don't know why we had a tank full of leeches. We just did. And one of the kids in my lab was like, asked her TA, is like, can I stick my hand in the tank full of leeches? And my TA was like, no. Like, so we didn't do that. But leeches are also gross. Like, to look at a leech, ew. Ew, ew, ew. Ew. Not good. I want to stay far away from leeches. I'm glad I didn't live in the olden days when they were like, yeah, let's use leeches to suck the blood out of humans because that'll cure them of their diseases. No. That's true. I guess people do like use leeches still for stuff like that. Ugh. Keep the leeches away from me, please. Unless absolutely necessary. I also accidentally cut a piece of my fabric too skinny, and now I'm out of the fabric. So I'm going to have to do something to overcome this mistake that I have made. That's a problem for later me, though. That is a problem for later me. Oof. Anybody else here like to leave their problems for a later version of themselves who really hates problems being left for a later version of themselves? I do that all the time. Yeah, I do think leeches are still helpful, but again, I don't want to be near them voluntarily. Only absolutely necessarily should I come into contact with a leech. Yeah, future me doesn't like present me either. Because present me never wants to do any work. Isn't that just the way? That's actually how I'd always motivate myself to do my homework growing up. Is like, how can we take care of future Brianna? And that's how I do my homework, because I didn't want to disappoint future Brianna. But present Brianna is always very tired now. And she's more okay with disappointing future Brianna. That's probably not a good thing. It's fine. Oh yeah, I like to overestimate my abilities too. I think some days I will do so much stuff in one day, and I think that I can operate on that level forever. But I can't. I'm not a superhero. And so then I'm like, oh dang, why am I so tired? And it's like, because you just assigned yourself to do way more work than you're actually capable of sustaining for a period of time. But then at that point, I'm probably usually several days ahead on my work. So if I nap for an entire day, it doesn't matter. But that's not a very sustainable way to live my life at all. I find it hard. I think one of the most difficult things about the YouTube and content creator thing is I set all of my own deadlines and stuff like that. And I am good at sticking to my own deadlines. Sometimes too good at sticking to my own deadlines in a weird way. But I am bad at creating sustainable goals, instead of being yeah, I could do all of this work right now. We could have done today, and then being oh, that took me way longer than I thought it was going to. And then I'm stressed out because it took me way longer than I thought it was going to. So I don't have as much I'm not as good at building the framework to create deadlines in a healthy fashion as I am at following deadlines. And then I think also when you're kind of working for yourself, it could be hard to feel satisfied at the end of the day that I have actually done enough stuff. Because that is the other problem I have, is I get to the end of the day and I'm oh, I didn't do this, and this today, instead of being I got this, and this done. But I'll get there. We need all good planning software. Oh, thank you. My women's scientist quilt. I loved how that turned out. I thought that was a really fun project. I know it was one of those things that was had the idea last year for it, and I was like, I don't actually know if this is possible, but I'm gonna try it because that is like the most fun part about this channel is if I have a crazy idea, I can like I can do it. And that was one of those projects that took me like an entire month to do, but I think was like worth it in the end. I hope. Also, like I really enjoy. I think like the 31 Days of Women Scientist outfits was like still very popular this year, like it was last year. And those are like a lot of fun to do too. If anybody caught those, they were, yeah, I had fun putting together all the outfits. It's like just a fun kind of creative way, I think, to highlight scientists that you don't know about. And it also kind of encourages me to find new scientists so I don't have to do the same, like, I mean, at this point, maybe like 5 women scientists that always get mentioned. I tried to branch out a little bit more this year and get a little bit more creative with my outfits. So if any of you guys saw those, I hope you enjoyed those. Have to come up with even more fun outfits next year, hopefully. But there's only so many science dresses that I can reasonably have in my closet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Guys, I've almost come to the end of cutting out this fabric. It's a miracle. Okay, so yeah, for this quilt, I am still cutting out fabric. There was like, let's see, maybe like 9 or 10 fabrics that all needed to be cut out. So I have I'm almost done cutting out the fabrics. You can see the here's the list of fabrics that need to be cut out and my check marks. I am down here. I actually messed up on this green seahorse print, so I have to troubleshoot that. But I am on this, I just cut out all these pieces of, I guess the bigger piece, this beautiful brown seashell fabric. And my table is full of all my other pieces. So like here's some of the pieces I cut out, big pieces I cut out last time. And I have all of these pieces and like these smaller chunks. So after I will probably, let's see, I think I will finish up shortly here, cutting out all the fabric for the quilt, and then probably end the live stream for the day just because it's been going on for like almost 2.5 hours and I'm tired. The last time I did a 4-hour live stream and after it was done, I like just went to sleep. I was so exhausted. But then the next step will be probably like organizing all of this stuff and starting to put together the blocks. There's like a couple of different blocks, I think, in this quilt. So some of them, just looking at the picture, some of them look like they are like these ones over here look like they're solid, like big blocks, and then like these ones in the middle are made up of like tinier blocks. So I think there's like different like subunits. Building a quilt is all about cutting out the pieces, building the tiny subunit, building the bigger subunit, and then like so forth and so on. So that's the kind of the plan for this. Yeah, I just like to chat and talk about science. I lost all my science friends when I graduated college, which sounds sad. It's kind of hard to make friends it's hard to make friends as an adult, I feel like. I've been actually thinking a lot about this recently, and there are a lot of like ways that like kids get to like socialize with people, and there's a lot of ways that like college students get to socialize. And you graduate college, and like I moved away from where I went to college at, and like all my friends are back there, and it's like I miss them. Like, it can be hard. So it is fun to come here and like I said, I love answering your science questions. To the best of my abilities when it's on like a live stream. Obviously, when I do it in like as a video posted on my YouTube channel, I have a chance to like organize them. But I do miss like the ability to chat about science on, I guess, even necessarily like more of like a casual level, like not necessarily like in a lab or like everything, just kind of chill. Let's talk about some starfish. Let's talk about some ecosystem engineers, like, casual, like. I don't know what other people talk about. Anybody have any idea what other people talk about? I don't. And it's kind of like weirdly, I miss like discussions I used to have about books in high school English class. Just because I kind of missed like talking about books on that level. And I know probably nobody else in my class did, and everybody was forced to read the same book that nobody really liked. But I just kind of miss like having. Maybe I liked school too much. Missed having conversations like that. But with like people nowadays, I don't know. Probably nobody else misses English class discussions. That's okay. Isn't this okay? And I keep showing, like, I'm working. This is the last fabric I have to cut out. It is this jellyfish fabric, and I just had to hold it up for you guys to just experience how beautiful it is. It's so pretty. Yeah, let's talk about, maybe we should like, let's talk about books. I don't know, maybe next live stream I'm gonna come with like a more specific topic. We can, it's like not really a full discussion because I'm talking on a screen and then like you guys are writing stuff, but it is more interactive. It is so pretty. I don't know if anybody else here is like a sewing person, or any type of crafter, but just like when you see like fabric or what's the words? Like fabric or yarn or any kind of material that you're just like, I need to have that. That's how I feel about like all of them in this quilt packet. They are just like splendid. I also got from the same company, I bought some like whale fabric, like killer whales and humpback whales, and it is, it's so pretty. I need to make a quilt with it at some point, but I haven't decided what I'm gonna do with it yet. The project queue is stacked, so I don't have time for that right now. Made from whales, not made from real whales. No, in the same way that I do not hunt animals, no whales were harmed in the making of this quilt. Man. I know I talked a lot about sea stars, especially at the beginning of this, but like if you really want to talk about, like, I love whales. Like more than I love tidal pool animals. Like my true original marine biology passion started with whales. So good. I really want to go dolphin watching sometime soon, maybe. I keep meaning to go whale watching around here, but I always miss where I'm from. But I always miss the whale watching season because it's in the winter time. And I always forget. But they do dolphin watching here in the summertime. And I was actually really sad because when we were in Maine, I wanted to go whale watching, and that's a big thing to do up there. But it was not whale watching season when I went there because theirs is in the summertime. We went too early, but whale watching is where it's at, honestly. If I could, like, not that I know anything about like driving a boat, but I feel like if I could just like, I would love to drive a boat and like a whale watching boat, or like love to also be like a naturalist, like the educator on a whale watching boat, because I could just like whale watch all day and tell people about how cool whales are. And I've heard New Zealand's like, yeah, New Zealand's got whales. I didn't see any whales when I was in Iceland, unfortunately. The best whale watching I've done has been out in Alaska. I've seen humpback whales, gray whales, killer whales, I think a minke whale, and some like different types of dolphin, like a Pacific white-sided dolphins and harbor porpoises. That's the word I'm looking for. Killer whales are my favorite. So if like I've been killer whale watching twice, and then just like while other types of whale watching have spotted a couple killer whales, and like the joy. Oh my gosh, it's so good. They're just so cool. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the story of like the Essex. It was a whaling ship. And like there's a book and a movie called like In the Heart of the Sea that's like based on this story. But it's like a whaling ship, and they got like rammed by a whale, and they like the boat sunk, and they ended up on lifeboats and eventually resorted to cannibalism, and some of them survived. But like it's like hard honestly for me to feel bad for like the whalers that got like their boat sunk by a whale, because I'm like, you guys kind of deserved it. Sorry, like, like, the whales don't deserve to be hunted for whale oil. He's just trying to protect his family, or like his life, by like not getting killed by whalers. But whale sharks are really cool. I saw those at an aquarium in Japan, and I was like so shook. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Animals are so cool. Our aquarium here has mantis shrimp, the ones that like I think they can see in all those weird colors humans can't see, and then they have like this super powerful like punch that like they use to knock out their like prey, that like scientists study, and they are super cool little weird animals that are like, yeah. Oh yeah, the killer whales attacking the yachts. Also a deal where I was like, I'm not even mad. Like humans have been in power for think they're all that, but like the whales are like, no, my dudes, you're not. Actually, that kind of cuts into a conversation I was having in the car coming back from Maine. Is we were asking, my husband and I were asking each other questions, and to like pass the time. And one of the questions was like, what mythical creature do you wish you could bring back? And I was like, you know what? I feel like we need dragons back. Like we need something that's bigger than us that can just kind of like not kill and eat us all, but just like we need just to live. I think humans need to live with like a tiny bit of danger that is present from like not other humans, because like maybe we would fight less with each other, or like other things when we're like have to be united against a giant dragon attacking the villages. I don't know. I don't know if that would fix anything. It probably wouldn't. But I'm like, I just feel like humans need to have they need to have something to remind them that they gotta control themselves. Just saying. Oh, manta rays are also cool. I love eagle spotted rays. If you guys have ever seen an eagle spotted ray at an aquarium, anywhere else, they're like blue and they have like spots on them, and they have these gigantic long noses. They're pretty majestic. Stingrays in general are rays in general are just super majestic to watch, like move through the water. Oh, I don't know if like not in the past if humans banded together to fight a dragon, but if it were to happen today, like they do in sometimes in fantasy movies, I feel like today if we had dragons, maybe it would help. I don't know. I don't know what the dragons are up to. This is not How to Train Your Dragon Land. This is not Burke. But we probably just fight about the best way to like fight a dragon. So mayhaps it's not the best. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I just feel like we need a tiny bit, maybe a tiny bit of fear from something larger than us, instead of just being scared of other humans. But I'm sure that would backfire in a completely different way. So we're probably best off as we are. Maybe. I guess we'll never know. Actually, I don't put it past some weird scientist evil corporation group to create dragons or something, or bring back dinosaurs, Jurassic Park style, to terrorize us. I don't know. I feel like we've gotten way too much into my interesting thoughts about life, but that's fine. That's why you guys are all here, right? To talk about science and to learn something more about me. No, I think we need no, not AI. Definitely not AI. Actual dragons. I'd rather have an actual dragon than AI any day. Okay. Here's what I don't understand. Is as far as I'm concerned, I cut out all of the correct fabric pieces I need for this quilt. For whatever reason, I don't have enough of this because I made one mistake. But I have this entire boatload of other scrap fabrics that I haven't used, but I wish that I had extra of the other one that I messed up on. But maybe I need this later and I just haven't reached that time period yet. I guess we'll find out. It's unfortunate. Actual dragons. My next band. What was my current band? I didn't know I was in a band. Okay. That is all my fabric that I can cut out for today. So I think I'm going to go ahead and call this live stream over for today because I am tired and have been talking for 2.5 hours. I will, yeah, so next I'm probably going to figure out, I'm probably actually going to go real quick and troubleshoot like off camera because it's going to probably involve my sewing machine, which is loud. And I don't want to deal with any more camera angles, but gonna figure out how to turn this back into one piece of fabric so I can cut out the right number of seahorse fabric that I need to finally finish it. And then I will probably organize all of these scraps of fabric on the white table I'm currently standing at, and then Either, and then I guess the next step is piecing it all together. So I'm gonna, let's see, follow the instructions. I gotta start sewing. Wait, hold on. I gotta start sewing different pieces together as the instructions tell me to make the pattern. So I don't know if I will do that part on a live stream, just because that feels like I would actually get no work done, because I already didn't get a lot of work done today. It's hard to talk and cut at the same time. And like I said, my sewing machine is really, really loud when it sews. Kind of in need of a new one sometime eventually when I save up the money for a new sewing machine. So it's kind of hard to like sew and talk to you guys at the same time, and I don't think you want to be subjected to hours and hours of as I sew. So maybe I'll end up finishing this project in a video that can get posted. I definitely will, if I don't do another live stream about this quilt, I will definitely make a video finishing out the quilt so we can all see the finished product. It would be cruel to have you accompany me on this adventure and then just like have it disappear and you never to see it again. So there definitely will be a follow-up, either in a live stream format or a just long format video about it, because this is getting done. And yeah, but there will definitely be more live streams in the future, because this is kind of fun. I think you guys are enjoying it. It'll be, yeah, I don't know, just hanging out, talking science, doing crafts, good times. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all for coming to this so much. I really like I said, this is a lot of fun. I've been meaning to do one ever since I hit 2,000 subscribers, which is like another pretty big YouTube milestone. I just haven't, because like life has gotten away from me, but here we are. So it's kind of this hanging out, celebrating 2,000 subscribers, and yeah, just working on this quilt. So thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate everybody's support. And as always, keep it sciencey.